lending money that ostensibly we don't have to kids who really have no hope of paying it back in order to train them for jobs that clearly don't exist, I might suggest that, we've gone around the bend a little bit.
Hi, I'm Nick Gillespie for Reason TV, and this is the first time I think that we've ever interviewed a bona fide opera singer at Reason TV on camera. And today we're talking with Mike Rowe, who's better known as the longtime host of Discovery Channel's popular show Dirty Jobs, for which Rowe, who once sang bit parts for the Baltimore Opera and worked as an on-air pitchman for QVC, takes on gigs straight out of Bob Dylan songs, working on fishing boats, sewer systems, oil derricks, slaughterhouses, you name it. His passion these days is drawing attention to what he sees as a dangerous disconnect between the work that he says needs to be done in America on a physical blue-collar level and the way that all aspects of American society seems to demonize and push people away from the sort of dirty jobs that don't require a college degree anymore. Through the Mike Rowe Foundation and profoundly disconnected venture between Rowe and the heavy equipment manufacturer Caterpillar, Rowe is talking a lot these days about what he calls the diploma dilemma. We've got millions unemployed and millions of jobs that are going unfilled. Mike Rowe, welcome to Reason TV.
Thanks, Nick. Did you write that?
I did.
It's good.
I only stumbled on it a bit.
No, it's not bad. I mean, the delivery was good. The accuracy, I'd put it about 95%.
And that's a lot coming from you. So let's start with talking about what you see as the real problem that's cropped up over the past 40 years or so in America. We're doing everything we can to push every kid to go to a four-year college. What's wrong with that?
So it's not working. I mean, you got $1 trillion in debt on the student loan side. You have a skills gap, something.
Talk about what do you mean a skills gap?
Well, you have right now about 3 million jobs, transportation, commerce, trades that can't be filled.
And this is stuff, anything from carpentry to being an electrician, plumbers,
heating,
construction,
electric. There's a whole truck drivers.
Right.
There's a long welders is a big one. Jobs that typically parents don't sit down and say to their kids, look, if all goes well, this is what you're going to do.
But these are actually also jobs. I mean, not only are they available, but they pay well.
Listen, yes is the short answer, but of course, pay well. It's kind of relative.
Right.
What they are mostly, in my opinion, are opportunities. A good welder right now can pretty much write his or her own ticket. Companies like Caterpillar, Bechtel, you can go down the list. They have had open shortages for decades. And so, I talked to a kid the other day up in Butler, North Dakota. So it's Butler, right? It's cold, but he works on heavy equipment up there. And over $100 an hour, work when he wants, paid for his house in cash, raising a family, no debt. People don't tell his story. Ever.
So that's part of the problem, is that instead we're telling everybody, you got to get that sheepskin, you got to get the college BA, otherwise you're not going to be happy, you're not going to have any opportunity.
It feels that way to me. Yeah, I mean that was my experience in high school, and I still hear the same platitudes today.
Talk a bit about that, because you have a great story about how you were in your high school guidance counselor's office and you saw a sign that said, "Work smart, not hard."
Mr. Dunbar, yeah. Well, he called me down, as I guess millions of kids have been called down to talk about my future, and he was looking at some test scores and said, "Look, you're not an idiot. You got a shot at James Madison University of Maryland, maybe some other schools. Here's what I would suggest." And I said, I don't have any money, but more importantly, I don't have any idea what I want to do. So while I figure that out, I thought I'd go to a community college. At which point he says, "Well, that's way below your potential," and pointed to the poster that said, "Work smart, not hard." The thing about the poster wasn't just the bromide at the bottom; it was the image. On the left-hand side, you've got a college graduate, recently matriculated, cap and gown, sun setting behind him, looking like he owns the world in the future. And next to him is a mechanic holding a wrench covered in grease or something worse, looking down at the ground like he won the vocational consolation prize of all time. And that was a very specific PR campaign for college, for higher education.
And we're talking, this is what, like late 70s, early
79.
80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like all PR campaigns, and most everything I'm doing right now really is through the lens of a kind of marketing proposition. But all PR campaigns always go too far. And they always, it seems, promote the thing they want to focus on at the expense of something else. Now, it's kind of egregious in education, in my opinion, but it shouldn't be shocking because look, the best way to sell a truck is to talk about how lousy the competitor is.
Right.
The best way to get elected is to talk about how creepy your opponent is. And the best way to really promote college hard is to talk about how subordinate all the other opportunities are.
And you've replaced work smart, not hard with work smart and hard. What's the difference?
Well, a very small, is it a conjunction?
Yeah. Yes,
is
it is.
And, is that what it is?
Yes.
All right, so yeah, we, at the time I thought, you know, if I had any balls at all, I'd reach across Mr. Dunbar's office with a magic marker and cross out not and scratch in and. Right. My grandfather would have approved of that. I didn't do it because my father would have disapproved. Right. But years later I've done it, and now as part of our fundraising, our ongoing dirty campaign for the trades, we sell posters that say work smart and hard. I now play the role of the graduate. Right. Standing there holding my degree, looking somewhat confused by the industrial setting in which I find myself, next to a far more aspirational tradesman.
Right.
So it's just another way to juxtapose.
What are the goals of the Work Smart and Hard campaign? What are you hoping to affect?
Well, in a really general way, a conversation exactly like the one we're having, and a question precisely like the one you just posed. Because if you don't talk about it, the whole thing is, forget it. You know, we have to change the conversation, and we have to challenge the existing protocol, if you will. So the first thing is this general PR campaign around the trades. The second thing, there is a financial component to it. I mean, the posters are only $10, but if I can get 20 or 30,000 of them hanging in guidance counselor's office around the country right now, well, that's fun. And we take the money we raise, of course, and it goes into a foundation to keep the conversation going and to award what we call work ethic scholarships.
What is a work ethic scholarship?
The scholarship program and the scholarship business, as I understand it right now, rewards 4 basic things. Intelligence, so you have academic scholarships. Right. Athleticism, if you can hit a 3-pointer, we got money for you for days. Right. Talent, right? I mean, we reward talent, we reward athleticism, we reward intelligence, and of course need. You know, need-based scholarships. Those are the categories that most scholarships address to some degree or another. Who's addressing work ethic? Who's affirmatively trying to reward the behavior we want to encourage? The behavior that the MicroWorks wants to at least talk about really redounds to 2 things: the willingness to learn a useful skill and the willingness to work your ass off. Combined, we think that is something that ought to be affirmatively rewarded.
But you're against the idea of taxpayer-supported loans going to college, right?
Well, look, we hold the note, right? Yeah. So it's whether I'm against it or not. I get a little curious about it when it gets to $1 trillion. Yeah. So if we're lending money that ostensibly we don't have to kids who really have no hope of paying it back in order to train them for jobs that clearly don't exist, I might suggest that, you know, we've gone around the bend a little bit in our analysis.
And clearly pumping that extra money into the system allows colleges to raise their prices. I mean,
of course, look, the cost of a degree, and this I do know because I've read it in several reputable sources, has increased at over 500 times the rate of inflation since the mid-'80s. 500 times the rate of inflation. Nothing else comes close, not even healthcare. Healthcare is like 250, 260. Right. So this thing is an outlier. This thing, the cost of this thing has increased so exponentially, I can't believe it's not daily headline news. Imagine any other commodity increasing at that rate.
But if you're a father out there and you have an 18-year-old daughter right now and she's about to go $60,000 to get into debt to get a history degree, you need to replay that last call. You need to listen to what just unfolded. A lady came out of college with a history degree and $60,000 in student loan debt. She and her soon-to-be ex-husband ran up $50,000 in credit card debt, borrowed $10,000 on the car, and Daddy tried to help her and loaned her another $20,000. She's got $136,000 in debt and a $20,000 income. Did you hear that call, America? And you and I, as the taxpayers, guaranteed the loan that led her down this primrose path, and we call that a student loan. And we call that a help to our culture. I missed where the lady got helped. Oh, by the way, it's not bankruptable. It never goes away. It's a single mom trying to feed 3 kids, and half of her debt is for a history degree. And her answer to make more money and get a career is go back to school again. Somebody please smack me. Unbelievable. Do you hear the messaging in this? There's something broken, and I'll tell you what it is. It's called the student loan program, and it's called you parents. Here's an idea, parents. Parent. Look at your 18-year-old child and don't look at them like they have any sense. They walk around in adult bodies, they don't have any sense. They don't have any sense. They're going to go 60 and 80 and 120 and $140,000 in debt to get a history degree. And I'm not against history degrees. But for goodness sakes, if you're going to do that, pay for it. In cash. So you don't have this hanging around your neck for the rest of your life. So what's she going to do? She's going to have to retool and enter a different field in order to get her income up. Have the backbone, dads, moms, to look at your child and say no. That course that you're on, that career path that you are tracking, and the amount of debt you're going into, I'm not going to participate in that. I'm going to look at you and say, you are stupid. No. No, no, no. Love your child enough when they're 17 and 18 years old to assist them in choosing a reasonable career path with no debt.
Found themselves in a situation where they've got significant debt. Now we know, all of you know, that in a 21st century economy, a higher education is the single best investment that you can make in yourselves and your future. We know that some higher education, some additional skills, is going to be your surest path to the middle class. The typical American with a bachelor's degree or higher earns over $28,000 more per year than somebody with just a high school education. 28 grand a year. And right now, the unemployment rate for workers with a bachelor's degree is about half what it is for folks with just a high school education. So you know that this is a smart investment. Your parents know this is a smart investment.